Shortly after the Dark Ages ended, there was a movement that changed the way culture would progress for the foreseeable future. From the 14th century to the 17th century, the Renaissance inspired and promoted the creation of groundbreaking art, literature, philosophy, and science in the European sphere. This era spawned great figures of intellect and creativity like Leonardo da Vinci, Galileo, Machiavelli, Michelangelo, and many more. And with the advent of the printing press, the everyday man was able to expand their knowledge. Today, I argue we are experiencing a new renaissance, the modern renaissance. With the internet and technology of today, anyone can make their voice be heard. This has caused art from around the world to be recognized by mediums that would not have paid attention before. But even more potent is the fact that new stars can be made every day. We are here to document the movement and philosophy of this new time. This is the modern renaissance.
Not gonna lie though, I see the white walls and I just look at them as canvases. Nah. Okay.
We need to call K-Shore.
Nah, fact. Boy, Nandeo.
Down. Please shout him out in the video.
Facts. Ooh. Nah, I gotta back up. I gotta give this justice. That's crazy.
Is that like the things that they shoot at the gun range?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So black men being on target.
That's crazy.
His clothing and have it made into, he will have his paintings made into clothing. I believe this one is by the designer Marco Hall, I believe, doing these. So, we all do different things. But yeah, that's our storage area. And also when we need to work on big pieces.
Gotcha.
For it to be in the middle of the floor.
Wow, man.
Yeah, it's a lot of amazing art over here.
Seriously.
Oh yeah, you gotta shout out all your people though.
Nah, facts.
Shout out all your people.
Hold on.
I don't even know where to start. Boone, Anthony Boone, Danielle Scott. Who else? Cortez Robinson, Joe Woods, Suleiman Anque, the whole Anque family, the tribe. Who else? Shout out to Bridge Art Gallery, to Quava Gallery, Atlantic Gallery, where my show is. My mom, duh. Diane.
Mama Dukes.
My family, just in general. So you may have seen them in the stuff from the gallery.
Mm-hmm.
Who else? I mean, so many people. Kristen DeAngelis, because she's a favorite. Cheryl Gross. Joel Lopez. So many people. I can't even, yeah, just everybody. All the artists in the world.
And the train right on time.
I told you.
Right on time.
Alright. First of all, we want to, thank you for having us do this, and, we're happy to have you. We love your art.
Thank you.
You know what we're here to do.
I'm glad. The universe worked. The universe
Yeah,
worked.
exactly.
Really did.
First, tell us your name, your age, and where you're from.
Shit. I'm not supposed to curse. I'm trying.
You can
I'll
say
do my
whatever you
best
want. You're
not
good.
to. I have a potty mouth. So my name is Bryant. I'm not going to look at the camera. I will look at who. Who should I look
You
at?
look at me.
All right. My name is Bryant Small. I am 43 years old. Originally from Washington D.C., but based in Jersey City, New Jersey.
Beautiful, beautiful. How old were you when you first started painting?
That's a difficult question because I've always been a creative. Creative brain, come from a creative family. My mom is a painter. But painting for sure. I didn't really start painting until college, but I was always encouraged to be creative, to explore whatever I wanted to artistically. So that like goes back to elementary school. They had like the gifted and talented programs. So I always was creative, but painting, like really painting, I took a painting course in college and I would just paint stuff, but like professionally painting over like the last 7 or 8 years.
Do you think you've always been a creative person? Like this is something that you're meant to do?
Absolutely. And it couldn't have worked out any other way. So I've always been creative, but things happen the way that they're supposed to. So I can't think of how else this would have played out. Like, you know how you like, oh, I wanted to be a doctor, I wanted to be a lawyer. I remember playing the game Life as a kid, and I always said I wanted to be an artist because they had the spots that you could land on, and I was like, damn, I hope I end up on the artist spot. You always made less money than everywhere else, and that's legit real. But yeah, I can't think of another avenue. I mean, I work in corporate still. I have a whole corporate life, a whole corporate career that I balance alongside having an artistic career. And that's just because of the nature of the business and the medium I work in, Alcohol Inc. is far too expensive to not work. And when you got a mortgage, you got to do what you got to do. So that's it. I said all that to say, yes, I've always been a creative, and I can't think of anything else that I wanted to do. I didn't realize how much I wanted to be an artist until I became an artist.
And I think it's beautiful that, you know, even though you have this other life, you can still always come back to this one thing that you love. Now we're going to get into one of the hard questions.
There's no hard question. Actually, I need to make sure my phone is turned off because it will ring not only in my phone, it's okay. Hard question.
Hard question.
Hit me.
So, many artists, when they reach, you know, any type of success, I find that people deal with imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
And our question is, have you experienced that? And if you have, how do you deal with it? And because, you know, self-doubt is a very, you know, hard thing to deal with in general.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to art, when you put your soul into something, how do you stop yourself from feeling that type of way?
So imposter syndrome and self-doubt, two different things. I don't let those cross over. Imposter syndrome, no. Not anything that I battle with, and it's simply because I know I am where I'm supposed to be. Whether that means I'm in a room full of artists, if I'm in a room full of students, if I'm just out with the general public, I know I'm where I'm supposed to be. So I don't feel like I'm somehow masquerading as an artist. This is something that's in my veins. So there's no imposter feeling. I am who I am. Self-doubt, though, that's real. I mean, I think we all have a moment or can have moments where you're thinking, is this good enough? Is this strong enough? Am I good enough to do this? Can I pull this off? Usually any type of doubt comes in the form of me being unsure about execution of something. Am I going to be able to deliver the best show possible for a solo exhibition? Not whether the work is good enough. I know that I've done my job in creating in the best way that I know how, and that's it. That's all that I got. But the doubt comes is, are people going to get through the experience in the way that I intend for them to? Are they going to receive the work thematically as they're walking through the space? That's more so what I'm worried about. Like, are they going to get why I named the show this way? Does the statement, the intention kind of support the outcome? That's where the doubt comes from, but not like, is this good work? Like, I know if I put it, I'm not putting it out. I'm not, if it's not good, and I don't have to love it. I paint to the point that I don't hate it. I think I may have said that to you before. I paint till I don't hate it, not so much that I love it, because the art is not for me.
Exactly.
So whether I like it, I have to not be embarrassed by it. And it's something that if I put my name on it, like, all right, I'm good with that. If I don't feel that way, then I don't show it, or it's not done. So that's the difference for like the imposter thing. Scrap it. Self-doubt happens, but I don't let that get the best of me. Like, everybody has a moment. Everybody has that moment, but I have people around me that support me. Even in social media, there on Instagram, on TikTok, there is an amazing thing when people show up and support you and they don't even know you.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah, so I don't take that for granted. You know, people that follow me on different social platforms and like the work or like the way that we have a communication or an exchange, and they enjoy that. You don't know what people are going through, and so I appreciate all of those interactions with people. Yeah. That answered 9 different questions, so you can count. You can cut the rest of them.
I feel like that's so beautiful because it's such a different perspective. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of people that fail to find themselves, but find it easier for someone to find like some type of identity in their work.
Yeah.
But with you, it's the complete opposite. You know yourself. You know your identity. You know what your purpose was, and you know what you're gonna put out.
Yeah.
It's just hard to see if they're gonna understand that same understanding. You know.
So part of that is I have to know myself as an artist working in a medium like alcohol ink, because it's unpredictable. Generally, I have to be certain about what I want to get out of it or what I want to do, because I can't structure it in the same way as everybody else. So I have to be ready. I have to be in the right mindset. I have to be good with me in order to produce work. I only create from joy. I only create from a good space. So if I don't use my art as like therapy or like in a cathartic way, I don't, because I know that when people experience my work or buy my work, collect the work, that when they put it in their homes, I want them to walk away with the best parts of me and art. We can get into saving yourself, but I create from joy so that people know that I created it with the best of intentions, with the best energy possible, because this is something they have in their homes. So my bad juju and my bad breakup and bad experience and all of that, they're not paying for that. That's not what they're there for. They experience the work in a way that strikes them, good or bad, but know that my intention is for you to have the joy that I have in creating the work.
That's actually a big. We were actually
We were
going to ask
ready to
you.
ask you
We were
about
going to
that.
ask
See,
you.
I'm psychic.
Like,
Get that
look
on
at
I'm
tape.
saying,
Like,
you're smoking.
you answered 3. You literally answered 3 of our questions.
No,
Without
I'm
you
saying.
I speak in sound bites. I've done this a billion times.
That's beautiful.
I find it so interesting that you're saying that, you know, this I guess is not a form of therapy for you, and this is something that you just love to do. Because I know so many artists, and they let
They
their
got to
work
be
consume
tortured. It has
Yeah.
to. You feel torture. You're working out trauma, and in some ways maybe I am, but it's coming from a different source, a different place. I don't want that stuff on my work. Like, art is a safe space, a happy place, a clean place. And so if I'm going through something, I don't work that out in my work. It's just, it doesn't feel good. Art is a good space for me, not a place to work out my shit. Like that, like it comes out, I guess, in some way that I'm not carrying it, but that's not the way that I'm thinking about the work. And so I think even when my paintings are darker in tone, it has nothing to do with my mood. So people will look at work and be like, oh, you must have been in a bad mood that day. I'm like, not at all. Like, it just so happens that was the color selection. That's where it started for me. And that's it.
It's like if you choose to make your art with nothingness so they can have the ability to fill in the blanks for themselves.
I want you to see what you see. So I try and name my paintings. Well, I try to. I typically, here's a train coming through. I name my paintings typically for conversations that I'm having when I'm creating, music that I'm listening to, things along those lines. There's usually something in that moment that happens, and that's how I get the name of the painting. Rarely, if I see a tree in the painting, I'm not going to call it the tree of life. That's too on the nose. But I may be having a conversation about a friend's breakup while I'm like getting ready to post the painting on my website or in social media. And as a result of that, I may name it for something that I've said or something that they said in that conversation. Like, I always land on my feet. Like, it's okay, I broke up, but I always land on my feet, and that will become the name of the painting. Because it's about that moment in time that I'm completing the work, that I'm ready to turn it over to the world, that like, all right, this is the name of it, or the song that I'm listening to. I name paintings for the most random things, but it helps me to often remember the piece when I've completed it. Because they're named for experiences, I can tell you the date. Oh, I did that in, 2016. I did that in 2015 because of that song. It's all these different cues that I have. Or, oh gosh, that's when so-and-so got engaged. I'm like, oh, yes. And it all comes back together. It's only a few paintings that I name specifically for a series. I've done a couple series that going in, I kind of had an idea of what I was going for. Didn't always land that way. But every year I close out the year painting. So New Year's Eve, I paint. And I try and time, it's crazy, I try and time the completion of the painting to be the strike of midnight for the new year. Or I will do something, I will stretch it out, whatever I can, so that New Year's Eve, I'm not out partying, I'm painting. It's like a meditative thing, but it allows me to be reflective, it occupies my time, and those paintings are named as like the Manifest series. So in my solo show at Atlanta Gallery now, there's a large painting there, a 10-foot painting called Manifest, Love, Balance, Truth. And that's the theme of the year that I created it in. So every year I start off, like if you look at my social media account, the last hashtag on all of my paintings is manifest something. That manifest is what the theme of the year is.
That's beautiful.
So that's actually this piece here. You can't see it, but it's Manifest Wildest Dreams, which is an old painting. So this is the first of the Manifest paintings. So I always name it for the year. So this was like my first year, quote unquote, successful in art. And I'm like, gosh, everything is happening exactly the way that I want it to. I'm manifesting my wildest dreams. Like, I never believed that this would be what it is.
What year was that exactly?
I couldn't tell you. And it's not even written on the back.
Oh, man.
But it was a few years ago. It was probably 6 years ago or so. But it's like I am doing exactly what I'm supposed to do. And I saw this T-shirt at some point where it said, "You are your grandparents' wildest dreams." I'm like, your ancestors' wildest dreams. That's what it was. And I'm like, yeah. I mean, this is not anything that like my grandparents probably ever imagined would be happening. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna manifest my wildest dreams. And then there was manifest love, balance, truth. It's manifest power, passion, and I can't even remember the third word. There's so many things. This year is manifest abundance. It's the main one. It's always 3 words, but magic, power, passion is also in the solo show. Manifest, magic, passion, power, passion, whichever. But yeah, every year I theme my years.
I'm happy you brought up your solo exhibition because when I attended the exhibition, you were playing music in the background, and you were saying this is the music
That I paint to.
That you paint to.
Mm-hmm.
And you touched on things that inspired you. We wanted to see what types of arts truly inspire you.
Music one, because I can't create without music. It's a weird ritual that I discovered, is probably the best word, that there are certain things that I need to do in order to get into the frame of mind to paint. And so I did this residency at Mana Contemporary upstairs with the Eileen S. Kaminsky Family Foundation, ESKFF. I did a residency with them. And at the residency, they give you space, they give you money to, create and to buy supplies, etc. And you needed to be there like 20 hours a week, something like that, which is hefty when you work. And so it's like a part-time job.
Yep.
But I realized when I got there, like my first day, that goes back to the Imposter Syndrome. So I'll circle back, remind me. So when I got into the residency, I got into the space, I was kind of sitting there and it's like, all right, let me start painting. And I kind of pulled out paper and it's like, something doesn't feel right. And I'm like, well, one, at the time I was painting only at home. I only had my home studio. So I thought, well, this doesn't feel right. I had on jeans and like a hoodie and sneakers, and I was like, this doesn't feel comfortable. And I realized, wait a second, every time I paint, I put on my soft clothes, like pajama bottoms, a tank top, a hoodie, something like just comfortable loungewear. And I'm usually not wearing shoes. I'm at home, so I'm usually like in socks, barefoot, painting. And now I'm at this residency and realize, shit, I need to get comfortable. So I had to change clothes. So I got that part done, and then I'm like, all right, cool. And realize it's really quiet. I can't paint in the quiet. So I'm like, well, that means now I need to get some wireless headphones, everything, because the wire is going to get in the way. Thinking of all that stuff, and then that's when I was able to paint. So music is like a key ingredient to it. I also tend to paint on FaceTime with my mom. So we'll create via FaceTime. So my parents don't call me. My parents FaceTime me. As evidence coming in, my dad FaceTimes me. They don't call me. So I paint in the train again. And my mom, we FaceTime. So during the residency, I'm like, well, I'm not gonna be able to FaceTime because I'm here working, but I needed music. And so I bought wireless Beats headphones, endorse me. But I got some wireless Beats headphones, and that the music is such a part of it. So I need the right energy, everything. So I'm not, some people are like, oh, I listen to classical music. Typically I'm listening to some house, something that makes me want to move. So I'm usually dancing and singing and stuff while I'm painting.
Stuff that gives you energy.
Yeah, so it's all about coffee and house music. Those are the things that I need. So I'm inspired by the culinary arts of coffee and also, and music.
And you must be a natural at this because you're giving us perfect segues.
Nah, fact, you really
I need you
are.
to know.
And it's going in order too. That's
Yeah,
the craziest part.
I try and do my job. I'm doing my part.
Man.
I'm trying to do my part.
I give you the applause.
But our next question is basically, you touched on this. How is the relationship with your art and your family?
Great. I mean, part of it is, you know, having a mother that is a painter and an artist. She gets my artistic sensibilities, the schedule that, you know, I FaceTime my mom 11:30, 12 o'clock midnight, and that's when we may be painting or wrapping up. So she gets the schedule. That's helpful. My dad is not a creative, not a painter, but I actually think secretly he might be a painter, but he paints in his dreams or will tell us about like, oh, you should do this thing, that thing. And you'll see him, he is the street team, the promoter of all things Facebook.
Nice.
My father is big on sharing my posts and everything. But my family is good with art. I think that there is a certain disconnect from me at home or like my mom at home and then who we are as artists and being in the public and doing shows and stuff like that is a little different. And so in that sense, for like a opening or something like that, I rarely will have my family there because I'm working.
Gotcha.
But this time for the opening of the show, I did what is official? I did an official opening night, which was on a Thursday night, and then I did a family and friends reception on that Saturday, which is where you were. And wanted to have the opportunity for my family and friends to come and experience the art in a gallery, just my stuff, where they don't have to feel like they need to dress up or like, I'm going to a gallery, what does that mean? Any of that. I just wanted people to come and have a good time, and that's what happened. So I do try and keep the worlds separate in a certain sense because this is work. This is art and creativity, but this is business. This isn't like a hobby. So when it comes time for art and I'm in the space, that's work.
Yeah.
So
That's something to admire because a lot of artists, they're very much the creative, and then they don't have the business side to them, and they get taken advantage of in the long run, you know.
yeah,
So for you to have both of those things and them to be working together, that's a match made in heaven.
I have a foot in both worlds. So I work in corporate all day. So it's like I work all day, I paint all night, and I sleep just a little bit, just enough to keep me going.
And drink enough coffee.
I'm that and the coffee, but I always say you can sleep when you're dead. So I'll worry about that later. And I'm perpetually tired. Right now I'm exhausted.
Oh, man.
But I know in order to have everything that I want, I have to do that. In order to succeed in the ways that I want to, I have to put in a little more work. I am going to be tired. I am going to need coffee. But I have a lot of things in there. I'm juggling a lot of things. So I'm working during the day, working corporate, working in advertising and marketing. I teach. I'm a professor at a university in New Jersey. I'm not going to say it because y'all not going to stalk me. But being a professor, being an artist, working in corporate, having some level of a social life and being able to be there for my family and friends, my plate is full. But there is a saying, you can't complain about your plate being full when all you wanted to do was eat. And so I keep that in the back of my head when I'm tired, when I'm like, damn, what am I doing? How am I going through this? Like, how am I going to have another cup of coffee? I need to go to sleep. How, why, what is this, da-da-da-da-da. And then I'm like, you need to shut up. Like, this is exactly what you wanted. So you got what you wanted, now make it work. So.
Wow. We're gonna take a quick pause.
Cool.
Let's do like another clip?
Oh, first off.
Hello, everybody. I'm Bryant Small, and welcome to my solo show at Atlantic Gallery, Gemini. Come on in. So the show, Gemini, is themed, it's all about duality. And because I'm a Gemini, my birthday is on June 7th. So everything that I do kind of surrounds the number 7 or being a Gemini is just something that I kind of play around with. People always say, you're in a good mood, you're always in a good mood. And the reality is I am not. So this show is about the good side and the dark side. I won't say the bad side, but there's some contrast and color and bold and bright, but there's also some quiet and subtleties that I wanted to put in the show. So let's take a look around. So this is actually the first piece, actually titled Gemini. That the show wasn't named after it, but it's a piece that I did a couple years ago. That it's, I guess I should say, every piece in the show is done pretty much on UPO paper, and every piece here is alcohol ink. And what alcohol ink is, it's a high pigmented dye that when it comes into contact with 91% rubbing alcohol, it causes all the inks to move around. So when I'm creating, I'm not sure of the end result. I've managed to get to the point that I've mastered it, and master is such a tough word, that I have some control over what the inks will do with, I'd say, like an 87% certainty. So the show also reflects all of the different textures and techniques that I'm able to get using alcohol ink. So this first piece, Gemini, is actually alcohol ink on glass on the first pane, and the second pane is another piece, another painting underneath that is alcohol ink on UPO paper. So both of them together, it shows the fluidity and the structure of what alcohol ink can do, which is really the concept of the show, about this duality and what the pieces can do. So there are a lot of pieces here. This is a show that I wanted to do more large scale painting. This one is 60 by 60, and then there's also a 40-inch by 60 piece. There are a few smaller, 3 small pieces that are 24 by 36, but I prefer to work larger. So this is another one of the pieces. It's just not that complicated. It actually is kind of complicated. Life is complicated in that way sometimes, but in art, I try and let the art live and breathe and just be what it is. And yeah, I decided to open the show with these 2 pieces specifically, showing the bright color and the energy of the work. Keep going. So the next piece here is Tough Decisions. And this piece is really challenging for me in the sense that all my work tends to be full throttle, full color, heavy saturation from end to end without any white space. So I've challenged myself over the last year or so to create pieces that have a lot of that negative space. So this piece, Tough Decisions, is actually only 3 colors of ink, which is extremely tough for me to do because I'm all about color and energy. So having black ink, a silver ink, and purple, a lavender in there really was a challenge because it's kind of limiting in the way that I work because I love color. So, but it's one of my favorite pieces in the show. It's gotten a positive reaction thus far, so I can't complain. So this piece here is a 3-way collaboration. So Janine Edwards, who is responsible for, who is the core designer for Pearl Henry, took one of my paintings, which is actually, this painting In actuality, it's high color, it is rainbow colored, and she digitally enhanced and created a pattern from the painting. And Toyosi did a beautiful design of the work here. So really proud of taking art and fashion and technology and kind of bringing them all together to create something fun and different for the show.
First, I'm very excited about this collection. Sorry.
No, take your time. Take your time.
I'm just very excited about the piece. I'm just, when I got the fabric, the idea that came to my mind was free. And I thought the tubing there really fit of being free. And I initially just draped it on the mannequin, and I just wanted to see where it went from the draping. And when I was draping it, the idea of putting a tool just came to mind to give it like the free concept. I initially was going to punch holes in the dress and bring the tool out of the holes, showing that it's free in some places, but not in all places. But I guess this one works out. Like now it's free in all places. So, and I'm very excited to work with Bryant and just bring this to life. Yeah, thank you.
Let's see, where will we go next? Unearth. Unearth is high color, like high velocity, high energy color. It's one of my favorite pieces because of the structure that's in it, but it really is all about this blaze orange color that's in here. The show, I wanted to show things that did have that monochromatic nature, but also a lot of intense color as well. The next piece, Tunnel Vision, is a piece that was I was inspired by actual lace, a swatch of lace that I had, and trying to figure out a way that I could manipulate the ink in order to be structured, but to do like this textured design, and ended up getting this center portion the way that I wanted. But this piece also has a little bit of acrylic in it for detailing. So it's one of my favorite pieces. The next one is I Believe in Magic, and this initially was going to be the title of the show because I always talk about these magical moments and being present, and so I Believe in Magic really is a testament to the ink being organic and letting the inks flow and do what they do all by themselves. So this is a series of, I think, like 18 different colors of ink and alcohol, and letting the inks travel. There is a little manipulation in a couple places, but generally it's all of the inks kind of traveling and doing what they do organically. So this piece is special. It's typically a piece that I keep in my home. Keep in my studio, which is like home, I guess that's why I say it. But this piece is dedicated to the neighborhood that I grew up in, Washington, D.C., Anacostia. And I named it Anacostia. I did a collection of work called World Traveler that's inspired by all of the cities and energies that I love. So there's also another piece in the show for Berlin. So it's a number of cities in the collection, but I didn't want to do a piece for Washington, D.C. When I say Washington, D.C., that brings about a certain feeling about politics and the government, and that's not the home that I grew up in. I grew up in Anacostia. And so the colors are vibrant and reflect the energy and the feeling that I get when I think about growing up in DC and Anacostia. So it's brightly colored, there's texture, and I can see the vibrancy of the people that I grew up with in the area that I grew up with. So that one's really special to me. Yeah, it's one of my favorites, period. And then I guess we will go here. And this is my family here in the gallery visiting. But this 10-foot piece here, it's 10 feet by 5 feet, and it is called Manifest Love, Balance, Truth. And every year I theme my years to try and give myself something to shoot for and to focus on for the year. And I work on a painting every year as for New Year's Eve. So instead of being out and partying or whatever, I try and close out my year working on a piece. And as the new year crust over, I like to finish that piece. And I typically will name that piece for what I theme my year for. So this one was Manifest Love, Balance, and Truth. It was the first painting that I did of this size just a couple years ago. And it really is like a piece that reflects the mastery over the ink. I try not to go into that arrogant place, but I know that this is a piece that I have done what I was supposed to do and showing what alcohol ink can do. So I said that every time, like, this is one of my favorite paintings. So let's just say they're all my favorites, otherwise I wouldn't have put them in the show. So this is another piece. I'm just moving them out of the way every 2 seconds. So this one is Manifest Magic, Passion, Power, which was another painting of my like New Year's collection. The color was just right. The flow and energy of it just puts me in the right brain space of magic, passion, and power. So earlier I mentioned the World Collector Collection, a World Traveler Collection, and this is the piece Berlin. This is where I first started to explore cutting through the inks and making the inks do what I want them to do. But it's one of the rare pieces in this show that incorporates glitter. So usually when there's glitter in pieces, people are like, ugh, glitter. And I like glitter, so I do what I want and I put it in there anyway. But I do it instead of like, I always think when people think about glitter, it's like when you're in kindergarten and you put glitter on everything and it gets all over the place. I wanted to do a series of paintings that incorporated glitter and texture and everything, but in a kind of subtle, peaceful way. And Berlin is a city that reflects the energy of like industry and architecture and sharp lines, and so that was the inspiration for this piece. And the last two is Impulsive, which is a brand new painting that I completed just a couple weeks ago for the show. That really is about the energy that I was feeling in the moment of making the decision for what I was going to do for the show. I was like, I need to be impulsive and just go with my gut. And so that's what this piece is all about. Orange is one of my favorite colors, but I wanted it to feel like anything could happen at any moment. And so that's Impulsive. And the last piece in the show is Paradise. And this piece is truly the quintessential alcohol ink painting. It is really letting the inks go, but it is full color, full energy, everything that my work is about. Bold, bright, intense, full saturation, and there's very little alcohol in this piece at all. So it's Paradise. So those are the pieces in the show. Thanks for hanging out and taking a look at them.
Like a quick, how do you guys feel? How do you think it's going? I know you guys are probably, very proud of the work he does. Whatever you want to do.
So I'll just say that Brian comes from a very creative family. We have in our family stylists, have had in our family musicians, dancers, extraordinary stylists of hair, inventors of techniques of doing hair. We've had fashion designers, we've had stylists, and so it's kind of an unspoken legacy. One of the things that happens in African American families that are not specifically arts oriented is that we tend to dissuade our children from going in that direction because they can't earn a living. But I can tell you from having been a professional dancer for 25 years that if you let somebody do it in this family, it will get done. And the creativity is
it's almost a given. And we're pleasantly surprised when we come to exhibits and things like this, and we see how beautiful this work is. But at the end of the day, it's like, oh yeah, of course.
See why no one else has to say anything? Where he started to where he is now, it's amazing. We love it, and we're fully support everything.
Next question is, what was your greatest success as an artist?
I don't know if I had it yet. I mean, there are things that I'm extremely proud of, that I'm happy to have been able to do, and that has nothing to do with recognition. The things I'm really proud about are goals that I set for myself that have happened. Being represented by a gallery, always a gift. That's something I'm really proud of. But I always try and set goals for myself, things to strive for, things to push for. I wanted to be represented by a gallery. I wanted to be in a show. I wanted to have a solo show. I've done that a couple times. I wanted to make a name for myself when people think about Alcohol Inc., that I end up on that list, preferably at the top of that list. I set the goal that I wanted to do the art fair in the Hamptons. I did it, didn't love it. I wanted to, do Art Expo New York. I did that. I wanted to do the Art on Paper show. And I did that in this past September. I think it was September. Yeah, it was September. Time is a blur with COVID. So, but the goals were about putting my art in places that I wanted it to be. I already have gone through the years of doing every show that I can do. If you let me show a piece of my work, I'll send it to you. If that is in a pizza shop, if it was in a funeral home, wherever, if you needed art, I was open to putting it up. And now I'm just in a different space that I'm like, no, I think I've done that part. I want to put my art in places that fits my target market, that are in spaces that support my aesthetic and the work, where I'm not fighting to find my place on a wall of artists. So those are the successes, and is now having the ability to make choices for myself as an artist that are not driven in just popularity or just making money. I can do it because I want the piece there. Or I've cultivated a relationship with a gallery or a curator to put my art in places that I wouldn't necessarily have access to, but being able to now have enough connections and network to make better choices, to make different choices, and not have to drop prices because I need to pay my cell phone bill, which hurts the market overall. People wheeling and dealing over their prices, where you don't do that type of negotiation when you're getting your hair cut. And so art being a higher level decision and purchase, why are we wheeling and dealing? And as artists, we frequently compromise our stance, our morals, our principles, our pricing in order to get ahead. And I'm just glad right now, as of today, tomorrow might change, that I don't have to make those types of decisions.
Honestly, I love that answer, because everyone's definition of success is different. And for you to, not necessarily have these certain accomplishments as your staples of success shows a level of maturity that not many people have.
It's great being able to check those things off, but that's not success. Success is, for me, is literally not having to think about when a check clears, when being able to be at home and be like, shit, all my bills is paid and I got a couple dollars left over to buy something. That's success, and that's where I am being able to relax and be comfortable knowing that I'm gonna be okay. That's really what it's about, and it's not about the money. It's just being able to breathe a little easier. Whew, even if that means that I'm gonna eat ramen. That's okay.
All right, this is our last question for you.
Make it good.
And honestly, it's my favorite question
Oh.
because, you know,
Different perspective.
it's a different perspective on success because people think success is what makes you. And me personally, I don't believe your successes make you. I think your failures make you. Your failures are the lessons that mold you and help you take your next steps. So we want to ask, not what your greatest success is, what is your greatest failure?
Greatest failure, you might have stumped me. And that's just because I don't try and focus on the negative. I've gotten a lot of lessons. Maybe being too hard-headed and doing what I want to do, breaking a lot of rules versus following rules, but I don't know if that's a failure. That kind of gets me where I am. Greatest failure. I don't know. That's one I don't know, because I don't go about my life thinking about the failures. Like, there are some things that I've had disappointments. I've had disappointments over, like, oh, I really wanted to get into this show. Like, Danielle and I just had this conversation about this, the New Jersey museum. It's like this museum show. Every year I apply and they shut me down, like within moments, it feels like. And I'm like, what the hell am I doing that for? Like, I don't want the show that bad, so let's not. So that's the flip side of, like, having the choice. I have the choice to apply or not apply. So I'm not going to keep failing. If I'm going to fail, I'm going to fail big. Let me just reach out to the Met and have them send me a rejection. And that's not, any shade to any other shows that have rejected me. It's just that I don't think about it that way. But I don't know. The failure would be not becoming an artist sooner. But because my life is so different. But that's the failure, I guess. Not putting myself or having my life be in the space to, like, become an artist sooner. That's a cop-out answer, but that may be it. I can't think.
If that's your realist answer, then that's the answer.
Yeah, I can't think of, like, the biggest failure. Now, of course, at 3:00 this morning, it's gonna be like, that's what it is. But the failure would be not doing it faster, or just in life. The biggest failure that I've done, I won't say failure, the biggest disservice that I've done for myself or to myself is shrinking myself to fit for others and being accommodating and saying yes when I really wanted to say no. And another good friend said to me, you always focus on doing what's right and doing what you think is good, but that is not always honest. You need to get to the point that you do what's really honest in your heart and not focused on doing what's good. So that would be the biggest failure, is that I spent a lot of years shrinking and molding and fitting into what I thought I was supposed to be in that moment in my life. In not doing that, I described it as, for years, my wings were bound. And I had this rope tied around me, this string that was binding me and my wings. And at the moment that my mom said, you need to try this alcohol ink, she also took a pair of scissors and cut that string. And in doing so, I was able to show my wings and show every brightly colored feather that I had in these wings. And that's what shrinking myself kind of kept me from. So I named a show Free to Fly because of that. Because it was the image of my mom coming by and, like, snipping the string and, like, these wings coming out. And it was like, damn, y'all didn't know I had all of these brightly colored feathers. And that's what painting did. Posting it on social media, having people say, whose work is that? And it be mine. Having someone recognize my screen name and that leading to a show. All of those are these feathers. Hearing my name, having someone else tell me my name was called and hearing it and walking through. All of that is like, that's the result of me not shrinking myself and stepping into being an artist at the moment I was supposed to. So it's a gift and a curse of like this failure of not becoming an artist sooner, but it wasn't time yet, I guess, because now it's the time. So that's it. That's my failure. My failure is not having a failure.
Nah, amazing. Literally, perfect way to end it.
Cool.
And we want to thank you so much for giving us your time.
And giving me time to run my mouth.
And we loved hearing every story you told.
Every single one, man.
Thanks. I enjoyed it. This was good.
That's a wrap. That's
Cool.
A wrap.
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's get a round of applause.
Thank you. It's a wrap. That's a wrap. That is a wrap.